Writer and director Lisa Joy brings us Reminiscent, a combination of the best sci fi and neo noir tropes. How does this work out as an original piece? Let's find out. In the not too distant future, Nick, played by Hugh Jackman, is a man that plays off people's nostalgia and profits from it. However, his life is turned upside down when he meets May, a mysterious woman that vanishes from his life after dating for a few months. So he is on a mission now to uncover the mystery about her disappearance. Now, first of all, I have to praise how modern this futuristic post apocalyptic timeline feels. The only big changes is the fact that sea levels have risen to such an amount that the ocean is held back by literal walls built by rich people. And the only futuristic piece of technology is the machine where you can relive your fondest memories as the actual future looks so bleak. I did enjoy this setting. It was a very steampunk sort of aesthetic that blended elements of the Blade Runner movies, and it also brings in a lot of neo noir elements, such as the movie Chinatown. Hugh Jackman's voice is very much tailor made for a neo noir setting, and it's nice to see acknowledgement to these old classic movies that haven't been seen for quite some time, to be honest. Hugh Jackman's performance is really solid. In fact, all of the cast deliver solid performances and give their absolute all for this. My particular favorite character in this was Fandiwe Newton, who plays Nick's colleague, who has such an interesting backstory. In fact, there's a lot of characters that have really good backstories. But I thought her and Hugh Jackman played off each other really well. It's nice to see this dynamic of a friendship that could have been more, but due to events in their lives, it would never develop past the plutonic nature. And it's just nice to see they hold each other up above water and stop them from drowning from whatever vice it is that ails them. Unfortunately for me, this film does have a big letdown for a couple of major reasons. For one, I did not buy the key romance between Nick and May. There are some early revelations that make up for the fact of how rushed and forced this romance feels, as it is told to us majoritarily through flashbacks and isn't told to us canonically. So it is difficult to really get as invested into this rescue mission as our lead character Nick is. However, there's some revelations in the final third that take that, break out the Jenga tower, and it all comes crashing down, and it becomes, unfortunately, a sadly predictable finale, which was a great shame because this film spends the entire runtime playing with audience expectations. There are several times I thought I knew where it was going, but this movie would always defy expectations and take a sharp 180 whenever the plot started to get more predictable and nuanced, to the point where when we do get the predictable elements in the final sort of third of the movie, they were shocking revelations just because at this point you didn't think they would go for some of the obvious tropes, but sadly they did do that, and it very much led the film to feel a bit lackluster in the long run. Another point in contention is the film flirts with a better movie for the majority of its runtime. There are several characters that reference this great war around the time that the waters did rise. This war is so effective that you'll have literal henchmen defy orders from their bosses purely because the mark in question from these orders happens to also be a veteran from these wars. People would talk about nicknames, how rough certain areas were, how rough certain events were, how some people were just left to die. There was a lot of political intrigue that is set up with this war idea, and I really would love to see this period of history covered. You could tell it happened before the events of this movie, and what should have been just a setup to explain why our lead character can actually kick some ass on occasion. It ends up being elaborated on a lot more than it has to be, and it made me really want to watch that film as opposed to this one. The movie only goes for about 2 hours, yet feels a lot longer. There is something about the pacing that just drags this right down, and any shock factor or mystery that the film presents gets undone in that final third, there are some villains that are very sadistic and very barbaric. And quite frankly, I did love that the villain was constantly changing. There was no out and out despicable evil villain until your sort of final half of the movie. There are several antagonists, several protagonists, and several anti heroes within this. Lisa Joy is clearly directing the hell out of this. The way these actors perform, how the cinematography is directed, it is really well done. For the most part, this is a nice, pleasant film, but it does borrow a lot of elements from the sci-fi and neo-noir genre. And while it does tell this original story, it just felt like it was missing something, and it just drags at times. And the big final third and the revelations made in that, giving us these bittersweet feelings, it does try to do something original and does try and do something bold. And I very much appreciate the film for trying that, but it doesn't quite stick the landing. And I can see this being a very divisive film, as it appears to have been so far. Before I get into my grade, if you like what I do on this channel, consider clicking that like button and subscribe to the channel for more reviews like this coming all the time. Without further ado, let's grade this. So, Reminiscence is an original idea that is filled with some great performances and some really gorgeous cinematography. But the amount of times it hints at a better film that is only told to us and never shown to us does drag it down. And while it does spend a lot of time undercutting audience expectations, by the final third, it starts to cave in to some stereotypical revelations. And no matter how well the directing and acting was, it doesn't save this film from overall being quite a lackluster movie that does have a lot of pacing issues. So overall, I'm going to have to say that Reminiscence is a lukewarm cup of tea. So Reminiscence, have you seen it? If you have, let me know what you thought down in the comments below. Let me know what your favourite Hugh Jackman and Rebecca Ferguson performances are. Coming up on the channel, we do have a few other new films that have come out, so do make sure you're subscribed for all that content. And until next time, my name is Josh, I have been your Movie Apprentice, and I'll see you in the next video.